Oh, hi, excuse me? Can I ask you a quick question? So, do you know what technical theater is?
Oh, lab?
Technical what?
Technical theater?
Technical theater?
I should know that answer, right?
No idea.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I have no idea. Is it like the lights and the sound and all of that?
Technical theater is
Lights and sound and techie things that you do in a theater.
technical heater?
Technical theater. While this term seems big and fancy and mysterious, it's actually become a very common aspect of our lives. Yet many people, such as the ones that you just heard, are clueless of its actual purpose. We're here to change that. Welcome to Theatricult, a podcast devoted to the unseen magic of technical theater. I'm Ruya Yaman,
And I am Ava Richards.
and we're your hosts for this podcast.
We're both high school journalists passionate about the world of technical theater, and it is our goal to enlighten people about its endless possibilities. Haha, you like that lighting pun I did there, Ruya? Pretty funny, am I right?
Oh boy. So this is our very first episode in which we'll elaborate on what technical theater actually is and why it's essential to theatrical productions. First, Ruya tells the story. So, what do you consider to be technical theater?
Technical theater is the work that's required behind the scenes to make the production happen.
This is Geoff Horn. He's the theater manager of Carlmont's Performing Arts Center. Horn has been passionate about technical theater since high school and even decided to study it during his time in college.
I really see it as like three big areas of theater. There's the performers on stage, there's the audience, and then there's the technicians that work kind of behind the scenes, often unseen, that help make the entire show kind of come together. So all three parts are equally important. You can't do a show without all three of them. But the technical theater part is more of the lighting, the sound, the props, the costumes, the sets that happens kind of sometimes unseen, sometimes before the show even happens, all that work is taking place. And then when you get to the show, you just, as an audience member, get to sit there and watch what's happening live in front of your face.
Horn is also the advisor for Carlmont's Technical Theater Association, which is also known as CTTA. He personally teaches students each year about the theater and how to operate all of the equipment in it. A few of his students have taken their love of this club to college to study it, one of which being Sophie Lynd, who currently studies lighting design at UC Santa Barbara. Here's Sophie on how tech contributes to productions.
You wouldn't have a production without technical theater. If you tried to put on a performance in a theater with no lights, you couldn't see it, obviously, no sound, you can't hear it. You don't technically need sets or costumes, I guess, but I think it helps tell the story a lot better. So I think they really go hand in hand. I think the performers get a lot of the obvious credit for being in the show and portraying the story and telling the story, which is definitely a hard thing to do, but I think anything that has to do with the tech side of it, like, actually brings the story to life.
Right. For each production, the performers are able to complement the tech aspect of the production and vice versa. Like Sophie just mentioned, specific elements of technical theater can really help to illuminate a performance and add more meaning to it.
Another lighting pun I see, Ruya.
Yeah. But actually, speaking of lights, technical theater's main purpose is to tell a story in a way that would have otherwise been impossible. Lights, for example, can help to create a more interesting narrative, as Horn explains.
If it's a very bright, really showy musical or a play, and you have this crazy effect going on, and it's rainstorm and there's lightning, and you see that happening, and you in your seat believe that there's lightning happening on stage, then that's technical theater. If you are watching a show and all of a sudden somebody's saying some line from off stage and they're supposed to sound like they're in some basement room with some echo, even though that microphone is still right next to their face, they're not really in a basement. That's technical theater. If somebody's doing a Shakespeare show and they're wearing Shakespearean clothing and their costumes look like they didn't just walk off the street, then that's technical theater. So I feel like those are the elements that I see the most that add to a production. That's why you need it.
Technical theater is almost sort of an invisible force that illustrates performances to be more realistic, which allows for the audience to have a deeper connection with the show.
So for me, technical theater is like this really fun place where you get to create this dream world, but you also get to create this very realistic world that the audience now perceives as real life. I feel like for me, technical theater for me is like that hidden element that is so important but if it's done right, it's almost invisible.
It's easier to see now how common technical theater is within modern culture. Tech is necessary for almost all types of events, even if it's as mundane as an information night at a school and the tech crew only gets to push one button the whole night. But if this was all that technical theater was and all that it meant to people, then this podcast would just be utterly pointless. So luckily for you, listener, technical theater means so much to crew members, and it especially means a lot to the members of C2TA, where forming a family together is pretty much inevitable. Here's Sophie again to explain the whole phenomenon.
Technical theater means family and community to me. When I started C2TA at Carlmont, I didn't know very many people because I had come from a small private school. I really got involved with C2TA during the musical of my freshman year, and I was just welcomed into the performing arts department in this amazing community of people that were all pouring their heart and soul into that one project.
Having a community like this allows for a safer environment to learn more about technical theater as well. Like Ruya mentioned before, Horn trains all members of C2TA with simple instructions so they can run shows entirely on their own. But this minuscule training often blossoms into a passion and genuine interest for tech.
So it's fun. I get to share a little bit of my passion, and then I get to see it create a passion and maybe create a thought in a student that would never have thought of that any other way. Technical theater to me doesn't mean just sitting there in a room and making lights look pretty on stage. It means a lot more, because for me it's the sharing of that passion, and it's the sharing of that whole process, and really seeing the students pick it up and run with it and perform a show on their own without really any involvement from adults or staff, for an audiences of up to 500 people per night. So that's kind of what technical theater means for me. I feel like it's all of those elements. I can't have just one without the other.
Thank you so much for talking with us, Mr. Horn.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
This series is all about spreading our passion for technical theater and showing the world that it is more than just some teens in head-to-toe black, crammed on the side of stage, or a bunch of fancy lights and machines that are used during shows. Technical theater is a creative outlet, and more importantly, a family. I'm Ava Richards.
And I'm Ruya Yaman.
And this has been Theatricult from Scott Center News.